Hello and welcome back to this episode of the Engage A podcast. I am Josh with my co-host Mike. Today we have a lot to discuss. The NBA playoffs are well underway. We have four series that have already ended, I believe, and a couple that are getting close to that point. But we will discuss all of those series in detail on the second half of the show. For the first half, we are going to dive deep into the NFL draft. We're going to give our opinions on a lot of the storylines. Of course, the Shedeur storyline we will talk about in depth, as well as a lot of the first round picks. And then at the end of the draft segment, we are going to give our top five teams drafts for each of us individually. But we will start here talking about the first round. We'll just get the Shedeur storyline out of the way now. Shedeur Sanders projected to be a first round pick. Some people had him, I think Mel Kiper, who we'll talk about in a bit, had him at two. A lot of people had him going in the early 20s. He ended up falling to the fifth round pick. What was it, 155 or something? What was he picked? 144 to the Cleveland Browns. It was a very eventful weekend with the Shedeur news. More people than ever watching day three of the NFL draft, waiting to see when he'd get picked. It kind of felt after the first round that he's going to get picked first pick of the second round to the Browns. People kept skipping on him, and when it really got crazy, in my opinion, wasn't even the Tyler Shuck pick at 40, excuse me. But when we started seeing the Jalen Milrose and the Dylan Gabriels going off the board. I believe were those the only two that were taken before Shedeur, Mike?
I feel like there might have been more, but
There,
that
there might have
no,
been a third,
I think it might have been after that started the run of quarterbacks.
but yes, yeah, I believe you are right. I don't. You can talk about Shedeur. I'm gonna look into this and see if I can find it.
Yeah, it was very shocking for Shedeur to fall that far. Especially considering we thought he would be a first round pick. He has the talent. He could have went first overall. I mean, he wore the Giants cleats during college, so he thought maybe the Giants would want him. But the Giants, they end up going with Jackson Dart in the first round, trading up for him. That was maybe the most shocking move out of all of them. I can't believe that we got Jackson Dart taken over Shedeur Sanders. As much as I mean, we know Shedeur Sanders is a better quarterback than Dylan Gabriel. I At that point, the Browns must have been expecting that. That's just going to be their backup. They're not looking for a starter with Shedeur, but when he falls to you on a day three pick, you decide to finally get him as your starting quarterback. It's very, very weird. Teams must just not want him as a problem at all. He must have been pretty bad in those interviews. We were able to see last year on Hard Knocks how the Giants grilled the quarterbacks that they were interviewing. They were very deep. Dable asked them a lot of very X's and O's questions, and maybe Shedeur just wasn't interested in that stuff, and the interview just went downhill from there. I think Shedeur Sanders can still be a great quarterback in the NFL. I think he has the talent. It's just he has to do show it on the field. The Browns have been a team that have been able to take the controversial quarterbacks in history. We saw them take Baker Mayfield, who had off the field issues. Obviously, Johnny Manziel had off the field issues. They've tried it with these quarterbacks, and Baker worked out for him. So hopefully Shedeur can as well. I think he's going to be successful, and it might have taken until late in the NFL draft on day three to finally take him off the board, but Cleveland might be a pretty decent spot. The competition, they have so many quarterbacks, but he should be able to beat out Kenny Pickett, Joe Flacco, Dylan Gabriel. He should beat those guys out, and we won't see Deshaun Watson on the field, especially at the start of next season. So I think there is a chance Shedeur Sanders starts week one, and they have a decent receiving core. Jerry Jeudy, we saw him blossom last season into a very, very good receiver. They have talent out there, and they bring in about three running backs in the NFL draft. So I think this offense could be good, and this could be a great spot for Shedeur to go, especially with the great head coach as well.
Yeah, I don't think Shedeur is going to start week one. I think it's Joe Flacco's job to lose at this point. He's already spent time in the system. He had a great year in Cleveland 2 years ago. So I think Stefanski's just going to roll him out there. I don't know what's going to happen with Pickett and Dylan Gabriel and Shedeur after that. We'll see. I mean, I saw people talking about possibly a battle between Flacco and Pickett, and whoever loses that maybe gets traded away, and then they rock Gabriel and Shedeur as two and three there, which makes the most sense. I'll say it now. There's no chance Deshaun Watson ever starts another game for the Cleveland Browns. He's not going to play this year, and I think he's easily gone after this year. So we'll see if he ever plays another game in the NFL, but I doubt he ever plays for the Cleveland Browns again. What was I going to say? Oh yeah, he was the sixth quarterback, I believe, taken. I had it in my head and then I forgot it. It was Dart, Ward, Shuck, Milrow,
Shock was
Gabriel.
shocking as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Shuck, Gabriel, Milrow, and then Shedeur at number six. But yeah, absolutely stunning. I think my take on it is I had him probably valued in the 25 to 35 range in this draft, more likely on the 25 side. We had him, I think, going 21 in the mock after a trade from the Giants, which I was almost right about if they would have taken Shedeur, but was not as they took Jackson Dart. I am not shocked with Dart going above Shedeur. I kind of had them valued about the same. I was fine with either of them going first between the two, but obviously Shedeur falling from the first round to pick 144 makes it an absolute steal for the Browns. And the Browns were very active on draft night as we saw them trade away the number two pick to Jacksonville to fall to number five. And I love this move for the Browns. I think this was an absolute steal for the Browns. Travis Hunter is a phenomenal once in a generation player, 100%. I agree. He's the best player in this draft, in my opinion. Him and then Abdul Carter. But the Browns are not a Travis Hunter away from being competitive. Adding a corner isn't going to change where they're at. Adding a single player isn't going to change where they're at this point in their rebuild as they're trying to get out of this Deshaun Watson hell. But if you can trade out of two, fall just three spots, and get a player like Mason Graham, who's also he was taken at five, and he is a top five player in this draft. You can get him and add another first round next year. I think the Jags got very aggressive trading up for Hunter, and I understand why they did it. But I think it's a great trade for the Browns. I think they have a ton of value there, and that was my favorite move of the draft for sure.
Yeah, I think it's possible for both teams to win in a trade. The Jags got what they wanted. They get high-end talent that can change the culture. They need a little bit of a culture change in Jacksonville. The fans have kind of been uninterested recently, and Travis Hunter's a guy who can bring in fans to every game. He plays both sides of the ball. He's a guy who can break barriers in fact in terms of playing on both sides of the ball. He's a very special talent. And then I think trading back for the Browns, getting more and more picks and going and getting a guy like Mason Graham, helping that D line, giving a guy to go on the inside for Myles Garrett, it helps the team. So I think both teams win that trade. Um, Going back to the quarterbacks for just 2 seconds, the real loser I feel like is the Saints out of all of it, Saints fans specifically, because I like Shao, however you say his name. I just don't understand um, not taking Shitter. I just he's got the better talent. He can go out and bring in fans. They are kind of stuck in this situation with the cap where they're just lost. And then same thing with the New York Giants. I get Jackson Dart, but I think if there's a quarterback that can handle the pressure of New York, I think that could be a guy like Shedeur Sanders who he's had the spotlight on him his whole career and he's been able to perform still. So uh, I get why some teams wanted to pass on him, but I think they're going to regret it in the future.
Yeah, going back to Travis Hunter, did you see the James Gladstone, the Jags new GM, the one that looks like he's like 18?
Yeah.
Did you see his whole spiel with Travis Hunter? That was
hmm
hilarious. I loved that. I thought that was so funny.
Yeah, and that's what I mean though. Like he can kind of change the culture.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think I'm with you. I think it's very possible for both teams to win a trade, especially on draft night. Other notable things that were a bit surprising to me. I'll start with well, Abdul Carter wasn't surprising. We kind of all had him going to the Giants at this point, but and Will Campbell, who when we did our mock draft last week, I accidentally took Mason Graham, and then I wanted to change to Will Campbell, but I couldn't, unfortunately. But we'll go to Genty's pretty obvious. We'll go to the Tet McMillan pick to Carolina. A bit shocking there. I thought they were going to go with a defensive player like a Jalen Walker or Michael Williams, one of the Georgia guys, but they decided to go with Ted McMillan here at wide receiver. There's been a lot of talk about, and Leggett is a guy like that too, but Bryce Young thrived in college having really tall receivers who he can throw the ball up to and they could just go up and get it. And he's just benefited from that, especially with his deep ball. And outside of Leggett, he hasn't really had that in Carolina. Of course, he's had guys like Adam Thielen who aren't that kind of player, and we've seen him overthrow a lot and miss guys high a lot in his career so far. So having a guy like Ted McMillan, who I believe he's 6'5", right? 6'4", 219. He's that exact kind of guy who I think fits perfectly with Bryce Young. And although I didn't think this was going to happen, and I think need wise, Carolina should have taken a defensive player. I think Tet's going to be a star in Carolina, and I think that pick is going to end up being a great one.
I also think that pick's going to end up being a great one. They've made a lot of moves at that position in just the past week overall. They also drafted Jimmy Horn Jr. from Colorado. I think that's a great pick. Add some depth at the receiver position. I don't think Bryce Young has that excuse this year because, I mean, we saw late in the season he was great, obviously, so hopefully he doesn't need excuses. But this receiver room is going to be one of, I'd say, probably in the top half, maybe top 10, just depth wise, no matter what. Ted McMillan coming in immediately can be the alpha guy. You still got Thielen and Leggett, two guys who have been with him for a while now. Jalen Coker was emerging late in the season last year as a weapon for him. They just signed Hunter Renfrow. Couldn't be happier that he's back in the league. He is a fun guy to watch, and hopefully he can thrive and get back to how he was in Vegas. And then they also go and get Jimmy Horn Jr. So they have a decent amount of depth. They got Tommy Tremble at tight end, Jatavian Sanders as well. I mean, I think going defense was what we expected, but I can't be mad at them for taking Ted McMillan at all. They did address some defensive needs in the draft still, so I like the pick of Ted McMillan.
Yeah, so do I. What else do we have here? Michael Williams, I think is going to be a star for the Niners. I think he's going to be very good in that system. The other Georgia guy that we just spoke about, Jalen Walker, who I thought was going to go to the Panthers at 8, falls all the way to 15 to a team that needs him so desperately in the Atlanta Falcons. They passed last year on what's the Alabama guy's name that went to the Vikings?
Um, uh, so G, it's got a G in it, DG. Um, oh,
I'm completely blanking.
I'm
You
not
know,
blanking. It's on the tip of my tongue.
well that would be blanking.
No, I mean, I don't think it's blank. Dallas Turner. Dallas
Dallas
Turner.
Turner. Okay, almost a DG, even though there's no G in there.
Yeah, I knew it
But
had a D.
you got the D part. I
Pause.
got, sorry, yeah, pause. But yeah, Atlanta passes on Dallas Turner in last year's draft, and they go with Jalen Walker here, and then they double back, trade back into the first round, and get James Pierce Jr. A lot of people were very upset about this trade, giving the Falcons went all out to get back in the first round, and I believe they traded another first round and possibly a third. I don't remember exactly the details of the trade, but they were the worst pass rushing team in the league last year, and it made their defense, which is pretty good on the back end. Their linebackers are okay. Their secondary is very good. It made their secondary look horrible because they couldn't get to the quarterback. So what do? They go out there in the first round. They get two edge rushers, James Pierce Jr. and Jalen Walker, two of the best in this draft, and they get them both in the first round. So I think although the Falcons did overpay, I think they're in a situation where they have a lot of guys right now on good deals, especially defensively, and their defense should not have been anywhere near as bad as it was last year. So I think Raheem Morris was just like, hey, let's just address this need head on. And if one of these guys is a hit, will be significantly better. If both these guys are a hit, it doesn't matter if we traded away our pick last year because we're not going to have a high pick in the draft the following year. So although people are upset about those trades, I love the Falcons draft. I think they did a great job, especially in the first round.
Yeah, they didn't have many picks to really use. They only had, I think, 5 picks total. But I like their picks of going with the two edge rushers in the first round. Hopefully, they're both hits for them because they need that help in the pass rush. My favorite pick from them, though, I think might be the third pick, Xavier Watts, in
Yes.
the third round. He's very good, very talented, and just gives them another weapon in the secondary. Billy Bowman Jr. also a safety they drafted, so they have kind of put a lot into that secondary. But the D line was the main need for this team, and they went out and got two guys who can immediately be starters for them. They did give up a lot to go back, move back up into the first round, so hopefully it works out for them. But sometimes, you kind of got a window here where you need to start winning the division. You got Kirk Cousins, who I wouldn't expect to start next season. It's got to be Penix still, but you needed a defensive edge, and they went out and got it.
What else we got here? Emeka Ibuka to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers was very interesting to me. We know their receiving core is already very solid. Godwin's coming back from injury, but they just extended him. Mike Evans is, of course, getting older, but he is still in his prime as he's been fantastic recently. And they go and they get Emeka Ibuka to add to this core. And I think there's some value sometimes to investing in a position that you're already very solid at just to keep that high. And when you have a guy like Baker, we've seen that when he doesn't have a ton of great weapons and his O-line isn't great, he's not nearly as good of a quarterback. He starts bouncing around the league. We saw him with the Panthers and the Rams after being released from the Browns. But now he's in a situation where his weapons are very, very good, and he was one of the better quarterbacks in the league last year. So I think giving him another weapon here that is going to be beneficial, especially down the road if Mike Evans decides to retire here in the next few years, is going to be super beneficial. And I think, like I was talking about on stream the other night, people were asking me an underrated team who I think could surprise some people and win it all next year. I listed the Buccaneers as one of those teams. I'm very high on the Bucs going into 2025, and this pick just reinforces that for me.
I am as well, and I completely agree. Sometimes you got to invest in positions you're already good at. I mean, you look at the two guys they had. Mike Evans is older. He could start digressing at any point. You never know. Chris Godwin's coming off of a terrible injury. You never know how he'll perform. You got Jalen McMillan, who's a solid guy, but if any of those fall off, if Mike Evans falls off at all, if Chris Godwin is struggling with that injury recovery, you're gonna receiver would immediately become a need for this Buccaneers team, and they went out and get Emeka Ibuka, who I think is one of the better receivers in this draft, and I love this pick. This is one of my favorite picks of the first round. I think it's just good to invest in a position you're good at, but an injury could hurt. So I think this is going to be very good for Baker. He's gonna, I mean, he needs weapons like you said. They lost Liam Cohen in the offseason, so new offensive coordinator coming in. They're going to have weapons no matter what now. And it would take a couple of injuries now to hurt that room. So I love this pick.
And in that same vein, the Broncos taking Jahdae Barron. They had one of the
Hmm.
best secondaries in the league last year, and they take Jahdae Barron to add to that secondary. You have already Surtain and Moss back there, but like you said with the Bucks, if one of those guys gets hurt, that secondary changes completely. And you had a guy who's arguably outside of Travis Hunter, the best cornerback in this draft with Jahdae Barron. I liked that for the Broncos. They didn't have a position where they really like, we need to draft this position. We're very much struggling here. This is the position that's going to change our team. So they said, hey, why not just take another corner and make our strength stronger? And I really liked that for the Broncos.
Yeah, and in the same leg, this is also one of my favorite picks of the first round. That they already have Pat Surtain, maybe the best corner, well, probably the best corner in football right now. And now you go and get Jahdae Barron to put next to him. You've got Tualoa Hufanga in the offseason as well, so that secondary is going to continue to get better and better. This is probably I'd have to say this is easily a top five defense at this point. They could use maybe a little better pass rush, but they
I think
have a
they finished
lot of
like second or
weapons.
third in sacks last year too.
Yeah, which is crazy. They did just lose, I think, Dre Greenlaw, who they just signed.
Yeah.
He's out for the year now, but this defense is going to be good and one of the best in the league. They didn't invest too much on the offense, which is a little concerning, but you're just hoping that Bo Nix doesn't take a step back his second season and can continue to develop into the quarterback that he looked like he was becoming. They did get Evan Engram, which is a big addition, but you maybe would have liked to add another receiver or two, which
Uh,
they did, but
yeah. Speaking of receiver, Matthew Golden goes to the Packers, a team that refused to draft receivers when Aaron Rodgers was there, and ever since he left, almost despite him, they've been drafting nothing but receivers. They took two in the first three rounds here in this year's draft. Golden goes 23. Did you see what number he picked?
I did not. What, zero?
22, which
Wow.
almost devalues the pick a little bit.
Yeah, I'd say that kind of does
That's
devalue
a
the pick.
horrible receiver number.
I don't know if you can be a wide receiver one and be number 22.
I don't know if you could be a wide receiver. Anything can be a number 22.
Yeah, I mean, I guess yeah, you can't even be a wide receiver two,
Yeah,
even though
that's
you're
bad.
22.
Yeah, that's bad, bro.
That's a rough number, man.
22 is bad. And picking that too. Like there had to have been better options out there. We
It's
need
not
to
like he
just
got
reset the
picked
numbers.
22. He got picked 23.
23. Yeah, yeah, exactly. I mean, it must have some sort of significant meaning for him, but we need to get back to the numbers how they should be. This is getting out of hand. First round receiver taking 22. A lot of people's number one receiver, 22. Come
Yeah,
on, bro.
I'm
But
trying to even look up if there's another receiver with number 22.
I think Watson maybe or Sky uh what's the Chiefs receiver?
Oh, Sky Moore?
Sky Moore might be like 22 or something, or he's 24, I think. I think
24 is acceptable.
even 20. I don't like
It's not great. It's
20.
not great, but just stick with the teens.
I don't want, yeah, I don't want my
To be
receiver,
fair, they already have so many receivers that I bet the numbers were probably slim.
but the positions don't matter anymore.
No, I know, but I mean like because like main receiver numbers are probably already
Right,
they have so many receivers.
right. But I feel like there's a good amount of like 0 to 19 is great, and then 80 to 89 is great. It's
Yeah,
just it's
that's
just
fair.
that 22 is just absurd. That would be maybe my last pick as a receiver. But moving on
Dobbs is
here.
87.
Yeah, he's
Uh,
87. Watson is 13, I think, or something.
Heath is 18. Hicks is 81. Cornelius Johnson's 84. I mean, they have so many receivers. It's ridiculous.
There has to be some options in
Jaden
the
Reed,
80s,
11.
right?
Christian Watson's 9. Yeah.
9, 9, 9. Yeah.
Dontavion Wicks is 13.
Yeah, they have a lot of receivers. a lot of
Yeah, maybe,
receivers.
he still has time to change it. You never know. You gotta
Yes,
hope he changes it.
that is true. Which I realized the other day that Dontavian Wicks was part of the Brian Branch trade, which I didn't know. But what else we got here? Amarion Hampton, who what is he listed as? He's listed as 6 foot 221. He looks massive. I don't know if you saw that picture, not him with the Chargers coaching staff, but dude looks massive. He looks like exactly what you would expect John Harbaugh to want for his running back. It's gonna be interesting with him and Najee in there now. What do they do? Is he gonna be a full running back one? Is he gonna be able to be that guy you take number two in Dynasty, or is he gonna be splitting carries with Najee?
Yeah, that is gonna be interesting. It was very. I think they might have taken him a little early. For but I guess if you like a guy, you're gonna go out and take him. He's kind
Yep.
of similar to like a Marshawn Lynch type of guy. He can break tackles. He's bigger, like you said. So hopefully it works out for him. But you can never have too many running backs if you're Harbaugh, and I think it's going to be a good move. I trust him as a coach to go out and have a great running back too. We saw when he was at Michigan, he had Donovan Edwards who sucked, but Blake Corum was great. And when the offensive line is good, the running backs are going to look good. So as long as our offensive line can continue to take a step forward, the running game is going to be good.
And that's the best thing. That's the biggest thing with Hampton is at North Carolina he had great offensive lines every year. So
Hmm.
this offensive line needs to be able to open holes for him because we haven't been able to see Hampton with a bad offensive line to see how it looks at all.
Yeah, that's true. And speaking of Donovan Edwards, he went undrafted. So just wanted to remind people
Yeah,
that he's not
just
good.
celebrate that a little bit.
Yeah.
And ending
Cover
off,
of CFB.
yeah, yeah, that
They
cover
got a first round pick. Was Quinn Ewers the seventh or sixth?
seventh, I think, to the Dolphins. I think
Yeah,
he was the last quarterback taken.
which is crazy. But
Yeah,
so they had a first, a seventh, and an undrafted.
and then in the background, like Shedeur was there.
I don't even
So
think Shedeur was there. I think the only other good player on the cover was Kinshawn Judkins.
yeah, he was there, but I think Shedeur was on the cover somewhere.
I don't think he
Almost positive he
was.
was. I don't know. You can look it up. But
He's
other
not. Jalen
really
Milrow. It's Jalen
Milrow.
Milrow, Carson Beck, Kinshawn Judkins,
Yeah,
Travis Hunter, Donovan Edwards, and Quinn Ewers.
yeah, it's tough. Missed the mark a little bit there for
And I can't remember, but I'm pretty sure the cover's been revealed for next
yeah,
season.
it's like a weird like them in the stands thing. I think Underwood's on the cover.
Yeah, well, I mean, yeah, it's gonna be they got Jeremiah Smith, so
Yeah,
and Ryan Williams, so
they'll be fine. Yeah,
and a Florida quarterback. What's his name? Oh my goodness.
I know who you're talking about. I can't remember his name
They got
either.
Nussmeier, who's a potential
Yeah,
first
from
overall pick
LSU.
next
Yeah,
season.
whose
DJ Lagway.
sister is dating Will Campbell,
Yeah,
which
I
is
saw that in the draft. They
interesting.
posted that.
Yeah, was not expecting
Very
that.
interesting.
But here at the end, Malachi Starks going to the Ravens is a phenomenal pick. The Ravens secondary is already, actually, I don't want to say they're already great because they were not great in the pass defense all year last year. They moved. How am I forgetting his name? I'm
Oh,
blanking
what were
all
you
day
saying?
today. The Ravens safety from Notre Dame who got moved
Kyle
to
Hamilton.
Kyle Hamilton. Yes, Kyle Hamilton was in the secondary. They moved him more into the box. They were a lot better when they did that. So I like Malachi Starks on the back end. He's going to be great for them. We also see Josh Connerly go to Washington. They've had some injuries on the offensive line late in the season last year that are going to affect them early this year. So I could see Connerly getting a start. And then the two big ones for me here at the end, the Eagles and the Chiefs getting Jahad Campbell and Josh Simmons just isn't fair. It isn't fair. Jahad Campbell's going to be a beast for the Eagles. You can already see it's that kind of pick for them, where Howie gets his guy at the end of the draft should have won a lot earlier than he did. He's going to be a stud. And then Josh Simmons, the Chiefs obviously lose Tooney in the offseason to the Bears, and they immediately replace him with a guy who a lot of people outside of Will Campbell, a lot of people consider Josh Simmons to be the next best tackle or next best offensive lineman in this draft. So two steals there at the end, in my opinion.
Yeah, two seals. I can't believe the Bills passed up on Jihad Campbell, but they do. I love the Bills pick as well, Maxwell Hairston. If you were watching the draft, he was just a great sport all day. It was fun to
Yep.
watch. Every time someone got picked, he would go and dap him up, give him a hug. So really good sport there. And then he got to have his moment, and everyone went and celebrated with him. So that
Yeah,
was
that was
very cool to
awesome.
see. That's one of the cool things about the NFL draft, just all around the draft room, everything. You don't really see that as much in the other ones, like the NBA one. I kind of just go up there, get interviewed. I just think the draft room's a cool thing.
I mean, the NFL draft is so much better than
It
the
has
NBA draft.
it has so much. I mean, I think
It does
no
has
other
aura.
draft's even close. The NHL draft is strange. It's cool, but it's strange.
Strange, very strange, especially when it was in the sphere.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Um. But yeah, I think all three of those last picks were phenomenal. Josh Simmons, interesting to have an offensive lineman with the nose ring. You don't see that too often, but
no,
he's a great player, so that's a steal for the Chiefs. They needed a little bit of help there. And the last thing I have really on this first round is I was shocked to see the Bears take Colston Loveland as the first
yeah,
tight end off the board over Tyler Warren. I mean, it sounds like Ben Johnson is just a massive fan of Colston Loveland, and maybe other teams were too. Teams were trying to trade up until he got picked. So maybe Colston Loveland was very sought after, and people liked him a lot. But in my eyes, Tyler Warren was the clear wide receiver one, and
tight end one.
I couldn't be happier. Tight end one, yeah,
Yeah,
and I couldn't be happier for the him to have fallen all the way to 14 for the Colts. I didn't think that was going
it's
to
destiny.
happen. I think his odds to go in the top 10, you had him. It was pretty high, wasn't it? It was like minus 200 or something,
I
or
don't
minus
remember.
120. It
I
was pretty
know
high.
Shedeur was minus 600 for the first round. I know that.
Yeah, yeah. But hopefully it works out for both teams. And the Colts, after 2 years of trying to get a tight end, they finally got their one in Tyler Warren. So thank goodness.
Okay, we can move on now to our top five team drafts of the NFL Draft 2025. I have nine names written down. Don't have any of them in order, so I don't really know what I'm gonna do here. But yeah, this was a bad idea writing them like this and figuring it out on the spot. But I'm going to go with at number five the. Hold on, I want to pull up their draft. I know who I'm going with here. I'm gonna go with the Baltimore Ravens at number five. Um, I think my opinion on this draft grading process. I mean, I've been pretty vocal about it. I hate the draft grades. They just make no sense to do right after the draft because you don't really know what any of these guys are going to turn into. But I also hate that when they rank teams based on their draft, how heavily valued the four, five, six, seventh round picks are compared to like the first couple picks. The first couple picks should be valued significantly higher because those are the guys that are much more likely to make an impact. So I think these draft grades should be much more reflective on who you take early than who you take late. So for that reason, I'm taking the Ravens at five. I love the Malachi Starks pick, like I said, at safety. And then they get Mike Green, a guy who has a ton of off-field issues that we're not going to get into, but he was arguably one of the best edge rushers in this draft. And a lot of people, despite the off-field issues, had him going in the first round, but he falls all the way to 59. And the Ravens, who obviously don't seem to care about those kind of issues, as we've seen in recent times, they take Mike Green, and he's probably going to be an absolute stud for them. They could use some help defensively. I think they're going to continue to be one of the better defenses in the league, especially on the back end when you add a guy like Mike Green who's going to be able to get to the quarterback and stop the quarterback from being able to throw it deep. And then Malachi Starks, who they have a bit of a hole at deep back, deep blue safety, and they're going to get that in Malachi Starks and be able to fully have Kyle Hamilton play in the box at all times. So at five, I'm going to go with the Ravens.
Yeah. For my number five, I did the same thing. I just wrote down teams. Putting them in order is going to be a little bit of a struggle. I'm gonna give an honorable mention to the Steelers. I liked the Steelers draft. It's just the fact that they passed up on Shedeur, I can't really get over. I think Will Howard actually has potential to be a starting quarterback in this league. I think he can be very good, but uh, just passing up on Shedeur in the way they did sucks. And one more thing we didn't talk about, and when you're talking about those first round teams, Derek Harmon, him getting
Yes.
picked in the first round, his whole story, really sad, but also it's cool but sad at the same time with
Yeah.
him getting picked, going to see his mom, telling her that he went in the first round, and then his mom passing away later that night. So it's a very sad story, but you got to be happy that he was able to tell her that and that she knows and she was alive for it. So respect there and just that story sad. But for my number five team, I'm gonna stick close to home for me. I'll go with the Colts at number five. They got their number one need has been tight end, and they were able to fill that out with Tyler Warren. And then in the second round, they were able to get JT Tuimoloau, who has had a lot of production at Ohio State. He's been very good. I'm surprised he fell all the way down to the 45th pick. But adding another JT to this team was huge, and getting an edge rusher when you only have one signed and going into the season after next is big. They also got another JT, Jalen Travis, offensive tackle, fourth round pick. I think he's going to be just kind of a depth guy for some of their guys that are starting, obviously, but I think that's a good pick. DJ Giddens in the fifth round is a great pick. They've needed a backup running back for JT for a while now, ever since they got rid of Zach Moss. And this is a guy who can be a starting running back on I think a lot of teams, but you get him here in the fifth round as a second round pick. That's huge. Riley Leonard, backup quarterback, just helped that quarterback room, and Anthony Richardson. I don't expect him to ever start, but we will see. Justin Wally in the third round's a good pick. They needed a cornerback, and then Tim Smith late in the draft at defensive tackle. Just another depth guy. They've needed guys who can stop the run. He is a nasty guy. He can stop the run, and they were able to get a linebacker with the last pick, which is probably their biggest need now. They need to go out and sign a couple linebackers to fix some holes there. But all around, they addressed a lot of positions of need, and I think this is a great draft for the Colts.
Okay, at number four, I have the defending AFC champion Kansas City Chiefs. Like I said earlier, I loved that pick of Josh Simmons at 32. I thought that was crazy value. Omar Norman Lott at D tackle is just a absolute monster, and he has a lot of raw tools. He hasn't fully been able to put it together yet, but is there a better player currently in the NFL to teach a guy like Omar Norman Lott how to play D tackle and be a polished D tackle than Chris Jones? I don't think so. So I love him there. And then one of my favorite picks in the draft, Jalen Royals, fell all the way to the late fourth round, which was shocking to me. I thought he was going to be like a third round receiver, but he goes in the fourth round. He's a guy that I believe he had like the best three cone drill in the draft or something like that. Or no, it was 10-yard split. He had the best 10-yard split in the combine. He's fast. He has good size. He can play on the outside. He can play on the inside. And he's just a versatile guy that I know at Andy Reid's offense is going to end up being a stud for a team like the Chiefs, who could definitely use to keep adding more receivers. Since they lost D Hop, we saw that they've had some issues with um, Rashi Rice, and then they just drafted I don't have it today. I just don't have it today. Oh, what's bro's name?
You're talking about
Worthy, Xavier Worthy. I
Xavier
just don't
Worthy.
have it today. Xavier Worthy. So I love adding Jalen Royals into that room, and I have the KC Chiefs, Kansas City Chief at number four.
Yeah, number four, I have the Las Vegas Raiders. Their first round pick is obviously the main pick that I'm ecstatic by for him, Ashton Genty. He's going to immediately go in and be the running back that they needed. I wish I could go back and watch our recaps and previews of last season and just count the amount of times I've said the Raiders need a running game
Yeah,
because
yeah.
it was probably multiple times per episode where I
Everyone does,
said
yeah.
the Raiders needed a running game. And they go and get Ashton Genty, by far the best running back in the draft, maybe the best player in the draft, where we'll see that in the future, the Silver Surfer. Great pick no matter what, and um, they're gonna love that one. I'm also blanking now. Pete Carroll is he's always had great running backs, and this is gonna be up there with maybe the best. We'll have to see obviously because Marshawn Lynch was so good, but he's great. The second round pick of Jack Beck is another great pick. They've needed a second receiver. Now they have two good receivers with Jacoby Myers and Beck, hopefully, and you have Brock Bowers and Michael Meyer. So Geno Smith has a lot of weapons to throw to. The real issue is going to be the offensive line, which they addressed in the third round. They get Caleb Rogers, a guard offensive tackle. Didn't really go too heavy on the offensive line, but I think that's a good pick for him. Jack Beck's story as well. That's another guy who's you get a lot of stories that come from the draft. He's up there with one of the best with everything that happened with his brother in Louisiana. So happy to see him get drafted. That was a cool thing to see as well. The most shocking thing from this Raiders draft was when in the sixth round they had two of three picks and they took both of the division. Is that Division two or Division three quarterbacks? With when they took Montana State quarterback Tommy Mellott and Cam Miller, quarterback from
Yeah.
North Dakota State. The two they played against each other as quarterbacks in the championship game, and the Raiders decided to go out there and get
It's the
both of
one.
them.
It's just that FCS.
FCS, yeah. So that was kind of shocking, but all around, I think they addressed a lot of needs. They got a couple guys on the defensive side of the ball. Darian Porter is a solid corner. They go and get two defensive tackles in the fourth and sixth round. They addressed a lot of needs, and Charles Grant is an offensive tackle they drafted, so hopefully he's able to work his way up to an offensive a starter for him. So really, the main thing is I love that they drafted Genty, but I have the Raiders at number four.
Okay, at number three, I have the Cleveland Browns. I definitely want to preface that a big part of this is because of the fact that they made that trade that I loved so much, trading down from 2 to 5 to get Mason Graham and adding a first round pick. So I had that in here, but I also love Mason Graham. I think he's going to be a game wrecker from the D tackle position. Carson Schwetzinger from UCLA is also a guy that a lot of people had mocked in the first round. They get him at pick 33, first pick of the second round, a pick where a lot of people thought Shedeur possibly could go. They get Judkins as well, who without Nick Chubb, he's going to be able to fit into that role very, very well. And unfortunately, he's probably going to struggle his first year because his offensive line is just still atrocious. As they have one of the worst offensive lines in the league and didn't draft a single offensive lineman in this draft, which I did not like. But Judkins, I think, is a stud. I think he's going to continue to be great in the pros. Harold Fannin Jr., another tight end who people valued as possibly tight end 3 in this draft after Warren and Loveland. They get him. They also have Njoku, so I didn't really understand that part of it. But just from a pure talent standpoint, I thought they had good value there for him at 3. And then ignoring Gabriel and Sampson, they get Shedeur at 5, in the fifth round with the pick 144, which is just an insane value pick. And I do expect Shedeur to not be QB5 in this rotation. I don't know if he'll be a surefire starter, but not only do you get him in the fifth round and get to take all these guys before him and get your value there, but you also get him at an extremely cheap contract for the next 4 years. So in the event he does end up being first round good, you're going to be able to build a great team around him for the first few years of his career. So I got the Cleveland Browns at number 3.
Yeah, at number three, for pretty much the same reason that you had the Baltimore Ravens being the top five, I have the Ravens at number three. They go out and get a lot of guys for that defensive side of the ball. Obviously, Malachi Starks is the big one. Mike Green in the second round. As long as you can keep the off the field issues to themselves, which we won't go into, that's the big thing. But he has a lot of talent, very good edge rusher. Um, Late in the draft, they continue to get a lot of guys. Wester from Colorado is a solid pick, but all around, a lot of depth. I love their early picks. They really they smashed the first two picks getting on the defensive side of the ball, and then Emory Jones, a great guard, to add to that offensive line. I think this is a was a very good draft for the Ravens, and these good teams late in the first round continue to just take the players that fall to them, and it works out for them. So I got the Ravens at number three.
At number 2, I have the Carolina Panthers, who took Ted McMillan in the first round. But the main reason why I picked this is their second, third, and last picks. They got Nick Scorton with their second pick, an edge rusher who I think is going to be able to fill that role. I said my problem with them taking Tet in the first round was they needed some edge rushers. They needed some guys in that D line who could wreck the game. And they go and they get Scorton and Princely Umanamillan from Ole Miss with their second and third round picks, which is two dudes who absolutely can make that impact. At least one of them is going to be a day one starter for Carolina. So that's what you can do. If you choose to go a little bit rogue with your first round pick and take a guy who doesn't necessarily fit a need for your team, but then you go in the second and third round and get guys at good value that fill those needs, that's huge. And that's why I have him at 2. And Jimmy Horn Jr., who is a wide receiver who has a ton of potential, and they're a team that can just use could use stacking some wide receivers. And when Thielen's gone, they're gonna have a rotation of Leggett, Tet, and Jimmy Horn, which is 3 receivers who could all be solid in this league.
Yeah, at number three, I was deciding between the Ravens and the Panthers. I think the Panthers had a fantastic draft. I talked about them a little bit earlier. They were great. But at number two, I had decided to go with the Arizona Cardinals. I love what they did in this draft. They gave Gannon everything he really needs to make this defense improve. If he doesn't, he should probably be fired when the season ends. They spend their first 5 picks on defensive guys from uh, defenses that were very good this season in college. Specifically, the Ohio State one, their fourth and fifth round pick, Cody Simon from Ohio State, and then Denzel Burke fell all the way to the fifth round. Those are two guys who were a part of maybe the best defense in college football and national championship level defense. Cody Simon was very good against the run. He's very smart. He's a great player. And then in the first round, they went out and got Walter Nolan, who I think I took in the mock. That's a guy who's going to help this defensive line immediately go in at defensive tackle. They've needed some help there to stop the run. And their second round pick, they get Will Johnson all the way at pick number 47. He falls all the way to number 47, which is shocking. Last season, he was at the end of last season, you probably would have expected him to be a top 5 pick. He was fantastic, probably the best corner in college football the last couple seasons. But this season, he picks up a knee injury, and teams have been very, very concerned about that knee injury. And that's the reason he falls all the way to 47. But if he's able to stay healthy, they're going to get a guy who's maybe a top 10 player in the draft all the way at pick number 47. So hopefully he's able to get healthy and that would immediately boost this Cardinals defense very, very quickly. And then their third round pick, they go and get an edge rusher and Jordan Birch from Oregon. Another guy who's going to go out there and can potentially be a starter immediately for this Cardinals team. Like I said, this is really you spend 5 first round picks on this defense. It's going to be do or die time for Jonathan Gannon. I want to take a quick look at their depth chart because now their secondary has to be better. Garrett Williams was solid for him. Sean Murphy Bunting was solid for him, and now you go out and get Will Johnson, and he can immediately go in there with Jalen Thompson and Buda Baker behind him, two solid safeties. It's going to be a do or die time, like I said. So hopefully they can get it done, and this Cardinals team can improve and maybe fight for a playoff spot. I don't think they can win the division over that Rams team, and the 49ers are hopefully going to be back. But I think this defense is much improved, and that'll help them a lot.
Yeah, at number one, I have the New England Patriots. They, of course, take Will Campbell with their fourth overall pick. They also get Trayvon Henderson, who I think is better than Ramondre Stevenson. I think could play a significant role in this offense early and often. They needed to get a receiver. They got Diggs in the offseason, but they also get Kyle Williams from Washington State here, who I think could be a pretty pretty solid target for them as a guy who could just bring in a ton of catches. He can be what he was described as like a Josh Downs kind of weapon I saw. So that's a good addition for the Patriots, somebody they need that they can rely on to get a ton of catches because Diggs isn't totally that guy, but Diggs at the one, Kyle Williams at the two or the three is pretty solid for them. And then my one of my favorite picks from them was Josh Farmer, the D tackle at 137. He was a guy who I could have seen going in the late second, early third round. He falls all the way to the fourth, and he's an impact player, big body at D tackle. And the Patriots who decided to stay away from Mason Graham at four and go with Will Campbell, get a guy who's of course worse than Mason Graham at Josh Farmer, but a guy that can be an impact player going forward. And I just love what the Patriots have done. They drafted, I mean, they had a million picks. They drafted every position you could possibly get. They even drafted a long snapper at the end of the draft and a kicker in the sixth round. So they went and got everything they need. The Patriots are in a good rebuild right now, and while they might not be great next year, they have Mike Vrabel. I believe in Mike Vrabel, and I think this team will be back as close as they can get to the peak here in a few years.
Yeah, I had them in just outside my top five. They had a great draft, so many guys. I'm gonna go with another team that had just a ton of picks, and I like what they did with them. I'm gonna go with the Seattle Seahawks as my number one team. I like what they did. The first round, they go and get Gray Zabel, guard, an interior offensive lineman. They've needed that help on the interior offensive line for a while now. They get Nick Amanawari in the second round to help the secondary as well. And they really just drafted just a ton of guys that I think can compete for the starting job. And no matter what, they're going to raise the play of the people around them because of how deep this draft was for them. In the late in the draft, they go and get a couple receivers. Torrey Horton in the fifth round. I think that's going to be a great pick. We've seen him in college have some big games. Saw it against Colorado. We've seen it a lot. He's been great. Damian Martinez in the second or in the seventh round, a solid running back, a third running back. We've seen Kenneth Walker have some health issues. You, as much as you want him to stay healthy, you have to be prepared for if he gets hurt again. So they get a depth guy there, and then Ricky White the third as the seventh round pick. He's a receiver that I liked going into this. Specifically, he started his career at Michigan State, and I don't know if many people remember the game against Michigan in the COVID year. He was a true freshman, went out and basically beat Michigan by himself. By himself, he had like 190 yards, broke a couple of freshman records. He was great, but I like what they did in this draft. Also, Jalen Milroe, obviously, they go and get him. I think that's a guy who has a high ceiling, but you just don't know if he'll really ever get there. You go and get him in the third round. I think that's a solid pick. Riley Mills from Notre Dame, defensive tackle. That's going to help them with that interior defensive line. They've needed some help there. Just really all around, I love what they did in this draft. So I have the Seahawks as my number one.
All right, I'm frantically trying to pull up all the scores here for the playoffs for the NBA. So give me 2 seconds. All right, we should be good now. One, two, three, four, five, six, seven, eight. Okay. So we'll start here with our NBA recap or update, I guess, with the teams that have already won their series and are moving on to the next round. We'll start with the Thunder, who beat the Grizzlies in 4 games. They sweep the Grizzlies. They dominated in game one and game two. Of course, won game one by 51 points, won game two by 19 points. The final 2 games in Memphis were a little bit closer. The Thunder in game three, which I believe was the day after we recorded our last episode. But the game three, Grizzlies were up by like 25 in that game. Ja Morant gets hurt. It looked like, oh, well, Thunder maybe have a chance to come back here, but they're down by so much. Can they possibly come back from this? And they do. And they beat the Grizzlies by 6 points in that game, which was just such an impressive win for the Thunder. We know how good this team is, and we know how much of a skill gap it is between the Thunder and the Grizzlies. But anytime you're down by, what was the most they were down by? I'm trying to find it. I can't find that. I think 25 was the most they were down by in this game. They still were able to come back, regardless of John Morant being out. They were still able to come back and win this game. Shea started playing a lot better towards the end of this series here, a lot more efficient for him. Of course, he's perfect from the free throw line. He's still able to get 8 assists, 31 points in game three. And then in game four, it popped off my screen there for a second. In game four, there was no John Morant. It kind of felt like it was over for the Grizzlies, but the Grizzlies did fight in this game. Shea was a little bit inefficient, but he still gets 38 points, 6 assists, 5 boards. Jalen Williams has a much better game here. Jalen Williams is a guy who's played pretty decent in the playoffs so far, but we saw last year he disappeared in the playoffs, and that's when the downfall happened for the Thunder, and they lost in the Western Conference Finals because of it to the Dallas Mavericks. So I still feel the same way about the Thunder. They're going to need these secondary players to really show up for them. They're going to need Chet. They're going to need Jalen Williams. They're going to need Isaiah Joe off the bench and Aaron Wiggins off the bench to provide good offensive performances. Like I've been saying this whole playoffs, we know how good they are defensively. They swarm you defensively. They trap. They double. They do whatever they have to do. And that's going to remain throughout the entire playoffs. I don't expect that to ever fade for them. But their offense, we just need to continue to see these role players support Shea. And this year feels different for the Thunder. I think they're going to take care of business, and they get the benefit of they're going to play a team that whether it's Denver or whether it's LA is playing a dogfight series right now, and they just went in 4 games. They're going to get some rest, and they're going to play a beat up Nuggets team or a Clippers team, regardless. Which when you're playing a Clippers team that has guys like Kawhi, that makes a big difference.
Yeah, that's exactly it. They're going to be fresh. Hopefully, they're able to. Sometimes those long breaks do hurt a team, but uh, I trust the Thunder team. They've been dominant so far in the playoffs. They did struggle in game three. They were down big, but Ja Morant gets hurt, and it pretty much the moment Ja Morant went down, the series was essentially over at that point, no matter what. Thunder complete a sweep. I don't have too much to say. They were the better team. They deserved to win. In game one, when you win by 50 plus points, you kind of you pretty much know where the series is going to go by that point, and the Thunder dominate. Their defense was great for most of the series, and their offense was good for the entire series. So Thunder advanced very easily, and they're gonna play a team that is, like you said, going through a dogfight and could go to 7 games. So dominant from the Thunder.
Okay, we'll move on to the Celtics here then, who win their series in 5 games. We had not recorded yet when we recorded last week. They were up 2-0, but the Magic did win game three over the Celtics in the way that the Magic have to win these games, which is just super, super well defensively. Neither team hit 100 points in this game, which is just absolutely unheard of in the NBA. Tatum put up 36, but not super, super efficiently for him. He did have 12 free throws. Jaylen Brown, 19 on 14 shots. Derek White, 16 on 14 shots. So nobody was super efficient for the Celtics in this game. And the Magic honestly didn't play that well defensively either, as we see Franz Wagner put up 32 points, but on 27 shots. And then the Celtics just come back in the next 2 games, win by 10 in game four, win by 31 in game five back at home in Boston, as we expected them to. Tatum was a lot better in this game. He had 35. He was a plus 34 for the Celtics in this game, which is super impressive on just 16 shots, too. He puts up 35. That's the efficiency you want to see from him. Jaylen Brown, still not full Jaylen Brown. He had one good game in this series, but outside of that, he still hasn't been his full self yet. I don't think we saw the Porzingis injury when we were last time we recorded, when he had that giant cut across his
Yeah.
forehead, which is just absurd. I don't even know how that happens in a basketball game, but I feel the same way about the Celtics as I felt before. And as we talked about them last week, I think they're the best team. I think they're the deepest team. I worry about I almost said Jamal Murray. I worry about Jaylen Brown and his efficiency issues and him possibly having a knee injury at this point in the playoffs. But I like where the Celtics are at, and watching this Knicks Pistons series, I think the Celtics will skate past whoever comes out of that.
Yeah, I completely agree. This is another series where I don't have too much to say. What we expected to happen did happen. The Celtics win it pretty easily. They win it in 5. The Magic got the one game, like you said, where their defense showed up and they were able to win that game. But all around the series. Celtics dominated the series, win in 5 games. Jaylen Brown does struggle, but he is still banged up, and getting the series done is not as quick as possible, but getting it done in 5. Hopefully, you get a little bit of extra time. You're kind of hoping the Pistons maybe take Game 6 and go back to Game 7, and you can just have more time off. You're definitely hoping for that, but they dominated this series. Didn't really have to put in too much. You do pick up the Jason Tatum injury, but I think he'll be fine. It's crazy that they were able to kind of rest him for a game in the playoffs. I guess you can't call it rest, but it kind of felt like it with that wrist injury. You still win in 5 games. Al Horford's still playing great. He was good in this series, even at the old age of 38. He still is a very, very good player for this team. You obviously have the six-man of the year Pritchard. He was great, and just another dominant series from the Celtics team. They have so much playoff experience at this point. Maybe some of the most playoff experience out of any team in the entire playoffs, but they continue to dominate, and I think they're kind of going to cruise to the conference championship and maybe even all the way to the finals.
Staying in the East here with the Cleveland Cavaliers, who won this series in 4 games over the Heat, swept them, and had an aggregate plus 122 in this series, which is just unheard of. An absolute embarrassing performance from the Heat. If there's ever an argument for no play-in tournament in the NBA, it's this series right here. The Heat had no business being in this series. Cavaliers are a significantly better team. And what makes the Cavs so dangerous is the same thing that makes the Celtics so dangerous is they're just as good offensively as they are defensively. They're very deep. You got guys like Hunter, Okoro, Ty Jerome, who's been fantastic off the bench, who similar to the Celtics can go and be a starter on a lot of different teams, but they're sitting on the bench here for the Cavs, and it just makes them so dominant. DeAndre Hunter and Ty Jerome were a plus 34 and plus 33 off the bench in game 4, which is just absurd. I maybe I've doubted the Cavs a little bit, just because I'm so confident in Boston winning the finals or at least getting to the finals. But the Cavs are a tough team, man. They're a team that I think matches up very well with the Celtics. And from what we've seen in the first round, I would not be shocked to see the Cavs face Boston and get themselves a win. The problem is, I think they're going to have a tougher second round matchup than Boston. I think Boston has an easier time playing against the Knicks or the Pistons. They've kind of owned the Knicks all year, and I think they're just a much better team than the Pistons. While the Cavs, although they are a better team than the Pacers were very, very dangerous in that first round, and I think they could take a couple games off the Cavs. So that is one concern where I still feel confident in the Celtics making it out of the East because I think they have an easier path. But I would not be shocked at all to see the Cavs beat the Celtics. I think they match up fairly well.
I wouldn't be shocked either. This Cavs team continues to impress. They've done it all season, and I mean, Game 4 was just one of the. They said it on TNT this might be the worst game they've ever seen, and in terms of a blowout, it was. But the performance by the Cavs was just so impressive. They were so dominant. Darius Garland didn't even play in that Game 4, and just wasn't even a game. They dominated this series completely. I agree with they are going to have the harder second round matchup no matter what, but. The way they played in this first round, it wouldn't be shocking to see them dominate again. Donovan Mitchell in the playoffs has been great. Ty Jerome continues to be a star for them off the bench. Who would have thought watching him in college that he would go out and be a very, very good NBA
Oh,
player?
it's
I mean,
wild.
he was a great college player, but I wouldn't have expected him to go out and be a dominant NBA player. DeAndre Hunter as well. He's continued to be good. They have just a lot of weapons that they can use. Evan Mobley didn't really have to do too much in this series. He did win Defensive Player of the Year over Draymond Green, which is unfortunate for some of the narratives I've been pushing, but he didn't have to do too much in the series. And again, I don't have too much to say because it was just a dominant performance by the Cavs. It wasn't a matchup. I agree. This hurts to play in. I think the play in should not include the 10 seed ever. I
Yeah,
think it, and honestly, I don't think it should include the 7 seed either. Maybe just the 8 versus the 9.
I like that.
But the 10 seed makes the playoffs, I believe, for the first time, and they did not put up a fight at all, really. And both of their home games, they lost 124 to 87 and 138 to 83. So
So
that kind of says all it needs to.
yeah, that's it's unbelievable. Staying in the East here, as we have 3 series in the East that are already done, and my take from last week about how I don't give a single shit about the East because the series are just so boring to me has come to fruition as there's only one East series remaining here with the Knicks and the Pistons. But the Pacers win this series against the Bucks in 5 games. The biggest story here is Damian Lillard, who tears his Achilles after coming back from a blood clot injury. And all I can say is, well, I feel so bad for Dame. He's about to be 35 years old, tears Achilles. We've seen Kevin Durant do it before, so maybe Dame will be able to do it
Outlier.
as what?
I just think Kevin Durant as a everything is an outlier.
Yeah, yeah, the anomaly, some would say.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I take it as a sign, as maybe he wasn't ready to come back from this blood clot thing yet, and the higher power above us is saying, you know what, Dame, you need to take a year and just get everything right and figure out the blood clot situation, get your Achilles right, and then maybe you can come back and we'll see. If he wants to come back, we'll see. But for this series, the Pacers win game five in overtime. This game was really, really good. I don't even really want to talk about this series as a whole because I've said basically everything I needed to say in the first recap after the first two games, but gotta talk about the Giannis and Halliburton's dad situation and Giannis's future. So Halliburton's dad waves the flag in Giannis's face after the game. Then Giannis gets in his face and like grabs the back of his head and then tries to fight like another player on the Pacers. It was a bad scene after that Bucks Pacers game, but you love to see it. I will say I've been on the anti Giannis train for a while now. I said back in 2021 when they beat my Suns in the finals, and it's like, oh, everyone is salivating over Giannis. He doesn't know what a smoothie is. He likes to go to Chick-fil-A and get a ton of nuggets. He's so funny. What a likable guy. And I'm like, okay, well, this is kind of a facade. I don't know how this guy's so likable, especially the way he plays the game can be unlikable at times. And feel like people are starting to come around on him a little bit. So I'm happy to see that. But let's talk Giannis's future. There's a lot of people that think Giannis is going to try to ask out of Milwaukee now. I personally don't see that happening. Maybe the Bucks want to get rid of him, but I don't see him asking out this year. I think maybe he'd wait one more year just to see how it goes and see what they do without Dame. But if he does go, I think all of the possible options for where Giannis could go are the same possible options for where Kevin Durant can go. If we're talking about the Rockets and the Knicks, and I've heard even the Nets as a possible option. I don't think KD will go there, but I've heard the Nets as a possible option for the Bucks. So we'll see. The Spurs as well are a team that could very well be interested in adding a superstar to their team and pairing them with Wemby and possibly Chris Paul and Stephon Gasol, who of course won Rookie of the Year this week as well. But yeah, we'll see. I personally don't think Giannis gets moved this year, but it's a players' league, and if he wants out, he's out.
Yeah, it sounds like they're going to have a meeting very soon. It might have been today. It might be today that they're having a meeting, but they're having a meeting with G management to discuss the future of the Bucks. Personally, I think Giannis should decide to leave the Bucks, and I think he should try to become a Chicago Bull. I mean, the
Mm,
fit's there. Just go to a division rival and become a Bull. But
not a far trip.
no, we'll see what happens there. I don't expect him to leave. I feel like he's kind of just gonna be a Buck his whole career, but they've had these rumors for years and years now of him wanting, ever since pretty much the year after they won the championship,
Yeah,
these rumors have started, which has been very surprising. But again, you have talked about how some of these guys in the media try to manipulate things to force, like, speak them into existence, basically. We saw it with Kevin Durant. We've seen it with a lot of things. So we'll see what happens. The whole situation with Halliburton's dad was just wild to watch. He was arguing with, I don't know, Benedict Mathurin must have said something to him. It looked like he was hugging Mathurin, and all of a sudden
yeah.
he just got pissed. So I'm assuming Mathurin was just talking crazy in that situation, not being humble, probably saying you got, I don't know. But he had to have said something to piss Giannis off, and you do have to be a little gracious in victory. You can't just be going around talking like that after you win, especially if you're just the father of a player, in my opinion. You can't be acting like you're on the team and put in minutes with the team. That just makes no sense to me. But back to the main story with Damian Lillard, that like tore his Achilles at the age of 35. That's, you hate to see it. He was really never had his chance to go and win that championship. The blood clot, I think that wasn't his other calf. So I don't know if that could be related. It can't really be related if it's the other calf, but
Well, I
it
mean,
sucks to see.
you put more pressure on the
Yeah,
other one then. So
yeah. But I was thinking like the Kevin Durant one where they forced him to come back early from when he was with the
yeah,
Warriors.
yeah.
He had the calf injury. You kind of made him come back, and he tore that same Achilles with the calf.
Hmm.
But uh, torn Achilles are just such a rough injury. We've seen football players be able to recover for some reason, but you haven't seen it as much in the NBA really at all. The only one who I can really say out of the list that has come out and still been the same player I mean, he's not the same player, but Kevin Durant,
He is the same player.
he's he's still a fantastic player. I don't know if he's the same player.
He still averages like 30 a game.
Yeah, no, he's. I mean, he's still a top 10 player, but he's not. He doesn't have the same movement, but he still can score at will.
Yeah.
He was phenomenal on the Nets. He's been good on the Suns. Just hasn't had the wins to go with it. Klay Thompson has been okay since he's torn his Achilles. He hasn't been the same player. Hasn't been as good. And outside of them, you got Rudy Gay. Has when he tore his Achilles, really never came back. I mean, you look at the list, and a lot of the players, John Wall, we never saw the same John Wall after that injury. That was rough. Dwight
John Wall is
Powell.
like the specific type of player that isn't
Yeah.
gonna respond well to that though. Just the way he
It's
plays.
gonna. I mean, yeah. Derrick Rose was like that too.
Yeah.
Rodney Hood had tore his Achilles, never really came back from it. I saw the stat when I clicked on this
Kobe.
website. Kobe, yeah, Kobe's on here as well. Um, it's where is it? It basically said, oh, over a 23 year span, 18 players suffered a major Achilles tear. This was in 2015, so a while ago. But 14 players from that 18 never, they averaged way fewer minutes, and I think nine of them never even saw the court again. So Achilles tears are rough. The one that I saw that stood out that he did come back, it was Dominique Wilkins. Tore his
Really?
Achilles in 1992 at 32 years old and came back and the next two seasons averaged 28 points and seven
Wow.
rebounds on 45% shooting. That's very shocking because,
Especially for a player like him too.
yeah, I would expect a torn Achilles from a guy at 32 in 1992 to pretty much just end his career, but he came back
Right.
and was good for a
I didn't
while.
even know they had the technology back then to fix
Yeah, I
that.
didn't even, yeah,
I have to take
but
you out back then. I thought maybe.
yeah, old Yeller.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, hopefully Damian Lillard is able to come back, but you never know. I just hope he comes back. It sucked to see, and
Yeah.
the way he kind of ran off the court, you thought he'd be okay, but once you see the video and the calf kind of explodes, it's over. Um, Rough season for the Bucks overall. In-season tournament champions are now 0-2 and winning the big championship. So
Yeah.
I'd say it was a solid series though overall, just considering all of the beef going on.
Yeah. No, I mean, there's been a lot of feisty stuff
Yeah,
in the playoffs so far.
a lot of physical basketball,
There has
surprisingly.
been, and we could. I guess on that note, I'll move this one up a little bit. We'll talk Warriors Rockets. Speaking of dirty, I mean physical basketball. Golden State Warriors lead the series 3-1 over the Rockets. I feel for the Rockets, man. They talked about this on PMT the other day, but the Rockets, after what happened in 2018 and the year before with the Warriors blowing the 3-1 lead and the Warriors just kind of being their boogeyman, they tear it all up. They build it from the ground up. They make it all the way to the 2 seed this year just to face the Warriors in the first round, and Steph Curry gets them once again, unfortunately. I mean, the series isn't over, but it's not looking it's not looking great for the Rockets right now, to say the least. Curry's been, of course, amazing in this series. He looks like he's in his prime. We'll see. When do you think Curry's gonna hang it up? He's
That's a
36.
great question because he's older. He's 36. He has the talent to play longer. He doesn't really use his athleticism as much. He's got such great cardio, and I mean, he's the greatest shooter of all time. But that's a good question. I'd like to say as long as possible, but it might only be 3, 4 years. You never know.
Still a long time. That still hasn't
That's
played
a,
until 40, 41.
yeah, I know, and that's kind of pushing it.
Yeah, I mean, I saw something online this week where it's all these stars of this era are
Oh
they're
yeah,
getting older, 36, 37, and they're all waiting because they can't retire before LeBron.
yeah.
And LeBron's sitting there holding them all up, and they're like, Jesus Christ, LeBron, we gotta keep doing this. You're gonna play till you're 45. Now I gotta play till I'm 45. That I mean, Curry can't retire before LeBron, right? He can't.
No,
Same year
no.
maybe, but even then, I don't think LeBron's gonna do a tour. Probably,
I
probably.
would. I always thought that LeBron would do a tour, but it's kind of hard now because like when Kobe did his tour and like Dirk, he did his tour, and I think even Tim Duncan might have had one. Those they were on teams that weren't good, like
Yes,
not playoff contending teams. Like next year, the Lakers are going to, and the year after, now that they have Luca, this Lakers team is going to be good and competing for championships every year. So it's hard to do a retirement tour when your team is fighting for a championship,
right.
as opposed to being a team fighting for a draft lottery spot.
No, and I completely agree. And I also think LeBron's the type of guy that would rather like get his moment of surprising
Yeah,
and like he'd rather teeter totter in the off season and have everybody in the media be like, "Is LeBron going? Is he staying?" I think he'd rather have that than the announcing it and it being set in stone at the end of the year. But
I'd,
yeah, no, I think the
I'd like
competitive
to
team
know
thing is.
though.
I'd like to know as well, but I don't know if he wants us to know.
Yeah,
We still got
I
to wait
feel
for
like he
Bronny to
would.
make an All-Star game, I think, unfortunately. But um, also, what was the God? I can't remember the stat I saw. Oh, it was the worst defensive ratings in the playoffs. Did you see that stat?
Well, I'm guessing Luca was one.
No, 1 through 12 were Heat players. 13, Bronny.
Oh wow,
Yeah, I know.
that's
Just it's
disrespectful.
unfair, bro. It's unfair to Bronny. He played 2 minutes,
Yeah, you
but
can't count a guy who played. You gotta have a
yeah,
minimum. You
yeah,
gotta have
yeah.
a minimum minutes.
That was cherry picked just to attack Bronny for sure.
Yeah,
But I think he gave up like one bucket. I think that's what it was. That'll do it. But I guess sticking with this Warriors series, all the games have been fairly close for the most part. The Rockets were pretty much ahead for most of that game in game two, the one that they did win. But for the most part, it's been all Warriors. Curry, like I said, has been great. Draymond's been his getting technical self, not super efficient. He was 3 for 11 in game three. In game four, he was, I don't know. He should have
he
been
hit
out of
two
the
threes to start the game.
yeah, he was 2 for 7. He was fine, I guess. Should have been out of the game earlier, but I guess flagrants and technicals are different for some reason. But yeah, I mean, the only issue I have with Golden State is there really isn't anybody in their starting lineup that can do much outside of Curry. Like their bench player, like Buddy Hield and Gary Payton Jr. or Gary Payton the second off the bench, have been really really good. But I mean, outside of Curry and I mean, I
I
completely
was gonna
forgot about
say
Jimmy
Jimmy
Butler.
Butler.
Yeah, but
I was
outside
about to
outside
say,
of Curry and Jimmy Butler, they don't have like that like third role player who's going to go and knock down shots for you at the end of the game if they're left open in the corner. It's not like Draymond does what Draymond has to do, but he's not that kind of player. He's not the guy that's going to be left open in the corner. And when Curry gets double teamed and then or Jimmy gets trapped, a guy open in the corner to hit a three, Draymond isn't that guy. So I hope they can find that guy. Maybe you move Buddy or Gary Payton to the starting lineup, but Warriors are looking good. They're going to win this series.
yeah, they're up 3-1 now. They were able to steal game three with Jimmy Butler out with that injury to his tailbone or whatever. Curry was phenomenal in that game. Draymond Green getting him shots. Draymond Green, uh, whether you like it or not, no matter what, he's going to go down as one of the best defensive players, not only really of this era, but kind of all time. He's almost underrated in that aspect because people just hate him, his antics. And being someone who loves Draymond Green, it's very nice to see every time he succeeds and everybody else is pissed.
In
You
love,
don't
I
get
think
that.
is what
You don't
you
get
was
that.
what you
You
meant to
don't get that
say.
too often. What are you saying?
I said I think you meant to say you're in love with Draymond.
I love Draymond Green, man. I've been watching Draymond Green since I've started watching basketball, really, at Michigan State. And with Tom Izzo in attendance in that game four, he hits two, three. And when Draymond Green's hitting shots, he's electric. I mean, he's able to talk
You
even
mean
more
when
than,
he's capable offensively?
yeah. I mean, when he's hitting shots, you get the memes that come up with the backpack on him shooting.
When he's not a
Love when
liability
those pop up. I mean, Draymond Green, the only liability he has is that he uses his emotions too much.
and he can't score.
I mean, he can score.
He can facilitate the offense. He's not a good scorer. He's
He can.
never
I
been a
mean,
good
he's
scorer.
not a good scorer, but he can score.
I mean, anybody can score.
I mean, I mean, just simply go back and watch the game seven against the Cavs and watch him
Okay, we're
dominate
talking about
offense.
10 years ago now.
I know. I'm just saying he's not in his prime anymore. I'm not saying it's
Yeah,
prime Draymond, but he can still score. He's great at facilitating the offense, great at setting screens, and the technical foul. The only reason they didn't eject him for that and gave him a flagrant instead was because that first technical foul was so soft. I mean, he was breaking up Curry and Dylan Brooks from yelling and screaming at each other. He was just breaking it up, and for some reason, he gets a technical for that. So Draymond Green trying to make
reputation.
peace. He's trying to make peace and gets a technical for it. So I don't know what he can do.
Stay
The
out
the
of it.
second foul, it was a little extreme, but that's what Draymond does. He walks the line. He pushes the refs to their point, and that's what he does. The last play of the game, for some reason, Ime Udoka decides to go at the guy who was nominated for Defensive Player of the Year and has won it before with Sengun, and used his body and just stood up Sengun, made him shoot a floater from the free throw line, which is a shot he can hit, but when the game's on the line, you don't want that being your final shot. And just phenomenal defense. Jimmy Butler on the bad tailbone goes up and gets that rebound, gets fouled, and I think he was like 13 for 13 on free throws in that game, was dominant in the fourth quarter. Jimmy Butler playing through the injury. He wasn't expected to play that many minutes in game four, but uh, who decides to go and talk trash to him? Dylan Brooks. And after the game, we see they said you were having fun chatting with Dylan Brooks. He said, "No, I'm not having fun. I hate that guy. I just want to beat him."
Yeah, I want that
So
on record. I don't like Dylan Brooks or
yeah,
something.
yeah, I love that. And Jimmy Butler being as a Bulls fan, he's still maybe my favorite player in the league. And watching him succeed always makes me happy. He said he got his love back or he got his joy back. So
I mean,
good stuff for
Draymond's
the
lucky.
Warriors.
He's playing in a series with one of the guys who's one of the few guys in the league who's less likable than him.
You
In
think you think
Dylan
Jimmy
Brooks.
Butler? Oh, Dylan Brooks, yeah.
Yeah.
No, Dylan Brooks
No,
is
not
one of the least
Jimmy.
likable guys.
Yeah.
But I like guys who get into fights, even though I don't like him. I respect that he gets into arguments, and the issue is he can never back it up with pretty much anything. He's
Yeah.
kind of a career loser. He can, or he's a regular season winner, career playoff loser.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But great start for Golden State, and if they can get through this in 5 games, they're gotta hope the Lakers make a fight against Minnesota. Otherwise, Anthony Edwards could be set up to kind of almost be a legend killer at this point in his career.
Hmm.
Last season, who he sent home last season?
KD
He sent home
and
the Suns with
Booker.
KD, yep, and Booker, and this season he could go and send home LeBron and then
And
maybe
they sent home
Curry.
Jokic last year too.
Yeah, so he's kind of getting that legend killer, and I guess we'll talk about that series in a minute. But
Yeah,
good start for
well,
the Warriors.
yeah, I mean, we might as well just get right into that one now then. With the Timberwolves leading 3-1 over the Lakers, won game four by 3 points in Minnesota, won both games in Minnesota, and it's over, I think. I think it's over for the Lakers. I don't see a way with how they played in the first 4 games that they can go and win three straight games. And we can clip this and maybe it'll do numbers if they end up coming back. But I don't see a way that they could possibly come back from 3-1. I know LeBron's did it before, but that was just a different era and a different team than they have now with the Lakers. I think at some point, Luca and LeBron will be able to click together, and we'll see a lot better Lakers team in the next year or two, depending on how long LeBron plays, how much more he plays. But when the Lakers traded for Luca, the first thing we said on here was it doesn't matter. They could lose every fucking game with him and LeBron. This is a move for the future for the Lakers, and they're going to have Luca going forward, and that's all that matters. And I think Lakers fans know that, and I think they've accepted that at this point. It sucks that the last couple of years of LeBron haven't worked out too great for them, but it is what it is. Maybe the funniest stat ever in Game Four. Are you looking at the stats for Game Four right now?
I can.
Don't look. Don't look. LeBron had 27 points. Guess how many shots he had?
15.
9.
Oh yeah.
He shot 18 free throws in Game
I
Four,
mean, that's the Laker way.
which is just unbelievable. Nobody else on the entire team shot a free throw except for LeBron James and Luka Doncic, who shot a combined 25 free throws in this game. They shot 22 from 20 for 25. They shot it very well from the free throw line. Ant Edwards also shot 17, so it might have just been the game script in that one. But Ant puts up 43 points on 23 shots. Julius Randle had his first like really dominant game. He had 25. McDaniels was a lot better in this one. Reed was a lot better, but like I said in the last pod, the Timberwolves just have those role players who have been getting it done for them and have playoff experience, and the Lakers just don't have that. They don't. Reeves has not been fantastic in this series at all. Nobody off the bench. Finney Smith hasn't done anything in the starting lineup. Rui had 23 in this game, but for the most part, he hasn't been that good. It's over for the Lakers in my opinion, man. It's over for them.
Yeah, I was trying to find it really quickly. Oh, net free throw attempts since the start of 2022, 2023. This would be a good answer rate question, but do you want to guess the number one team?
Lakers?
Yeah. And then the number two team is the Knicks. Do you want to guess what the disparity is?
Is it per game?
Total and net free throw attempt differential.
It was like
So they've
100.
had this many more free throws than their opponents.
Was it like 100
No,
more?
I'll just say it. The Lakers have shot 1,017 more free throws than their opponents. This was a year ago, by the way.
Oh my
And
god.
second place is 358.
Oh my god. That's unbelievable.
It's unbelievable. Last place is shockingly the Golden State Warriors have shot 646 less free throws than their
Wow.
opponents.
Wow. Where are the
You
Suns at?
also The Suns are 134 less,
Okay. Checks out.
so they're in the middle.
Checks out.
Bulls are minus 65, and this was, like I said, this was over a year ago. So just crazy the the free throws the Lakers get. But yeah, I'd say this series might be over at this point. Anthony Edwards has been dominant. The craziest part to me about this series overall is you look at the players on the court. You got LeBron, obviously, he's older. You got Anthony Edwards, and you have Luka Doncic. Those are the three best players on the court. Right now, by far, the best player out of those three has been Anthony Edwards. He's been the best player on the floor, better than Luka, better than LeBron, and his team is up 3-1 in the series. The Lakers have had to have a game where they need their defense to step up, and while their offense is also playing well, and they had it in game two where their defense stepped up, but other than that, their offense hasn't really broke through as much. They've had good moments, but they need to be better. I mean, LeBron played 46 minutes in the last game, and they were unable to win. So we'll see if they can come back. I just don't see it happening. They need to go out next season, maybe get a center. Um, but yeah, right now they have had the issue of Luka Doncic was sick, and that does hurt him. But still, I mean, he did have 38 points in Game Five, but you got to be better. And or Game Four, you got to be better. And the Timberwolves, they just look like the better team right now, and they're just bullying the Lakers. And Anthony Edwards is a legend killer.
Moving on here to the Knicks and Pistons series. The series currently sits at 3-2 Knicks as the Pistons win game five in New York, 106 to 103. The biggest story here, though, is from game four that we have not talked about yet. The missed foul on Tim Hardaway Jr. At the end of the game for the Pistons cost them the game. Of course, the NBA did their thing where they talk about it after the game and they're like, "Oh, actually, yeah, we got that one wrong," which doesn't mean anything because it doesn't affect the game at all. You're just making fans more mad. I think I'd rather just not hear that from the officials than hear it. But one thing in the series that's been very interesting to me is Jalen Duren has not played very well. He's been pretty inefficient overall, pretty ineffective. He does 17 rebounds in game four, but minus 17 on the plus minus. The team has just not been performing as well when he's on the court, granted to when he's not on the court. But like I said when I was talking about the Celtics here, I don't think either of these teams can beat the Celtics, and especially not the Pistons. I would love to see the series go to 7 games just because I want to see a 7 game series at some point. And for the most part, the first 5 games of the series have all been very entertaining. And it'd be cool to see the Pistons win a game at home and force Game 7 in Madison Square Garden, which is currently listed to be the next day, which I can't imagine that's gonna happen. But they currently have Knicks Pistons Game 6 for 5-1 and Game 7 for 5-2. So I don't really know how that's going to work. But Cade's been fantastic this whole series. I think Cade and the Pistons are they're obviously way too young, but I think at some point this team is going to be very good. They're a team that if they add like a KD or a Giannis, they turn into a completely different team and turn into an actual super dangerous team. So maybe they do that, but it's hard to do that without trading away your young pieces unless you're willing to just give up all picks. But I still think the Knicks are going to win the series. I actually think they win in Detroit in Game 6. I think they clinch it in Motown in Game 6 over the Pistons.
Yeah, as a Suns fan, you got to kind of look at these teams like Detroit, obviously the Rockets. I know you've been worried about not getting picks back, but these two teams could have a bidding war for KD, and I think they're both probably teams that are going to want to go after a guy like Kevin Durant, a veteran who's been there before, won championships. Yeah, this Pistons team, they've been great defensively for most of the series. They've been getting to the free throw line pretty easily, drawing fouls, but like you said, they're just too young. They get a big win in Game 5. Now you go back to home in Game 6, and this is one you really need to win. You'd like to get a win for your home fans. The Game 4, there was a lot of questionable calls. Obviously, the Tim Hardaway one, the backcourt violation that should have been called on Jalen Brunson. The Knicks have had a decent amount of luck so far, but they've also been the team in this series that has hit more clutch shots. They were down in that Game 4, or maybe that was Game 3 that had the backcourt violation, but in Game 4, we saw Karl Anthony Towns hit a couple big shots, a deep three to win the game for him. It's been a great series so far. I'd love to see it go to 7 games. These are two teams that are basketball's better when these guys are good. The Knicks, hey, we're going back to little LCA now, and there's no place
LCA,
like the
yeah.
LCA. So
That's what they're
Malik
saying.
Beasley can start hitting some shots, and Cade Cunningham, like you said, he's been fantastic. So is Brunson though, and we'll see who gets it done. I think the Knicks get it done I'm gonna say the Knicks get it done in 7. I think the Pistons are gonna defend home court, get at least one win at the LCA because, like I said, there's no place like the LCA. So I got the Knicks in 7.
Sorry, I just saw a hilarious tweet. Um, yes, final series here, Nuggets and Clippers. The Nuggets win Game 5 to go up 3-2. The pivotal Game 5 when I don't have the exact statistic, but when it's 2-2 going into game five, the team that wins game five usually wins the series. Jokic was so good in this game five because he wasn't able to score a ton. He only had 13 points offensively, but he still puts together 12 assists, 10 rebounds. And when Jokic has his teammates around him hitting shots, they're a really tough team to beat. Aaron Gordon was 7 for 11. Michael Porter Jr. was 5 for 10. He had 3 for 5 from three. Jamal Murray hits 8 threes, puts up 43 points in this game. The best game for him this series. When Jamal Murray's playing like this, they're a tough team to beat as well. And then Russell Westbrook off the bench. He was the only one who played really any impactful minutes off the bench. DeAndre Jordan did play 10 minutes, but Russ plays 25 off the bench, 8 for 15, hits 3 threes, 21 points. Everything went right for the Nuggets in this game. Against a team that's so good defensively like the Clippers, when you're able to put up 131 points against them, you're most likely going to win those games more often than not. We'll talk game four here. Game four, the Nuggets had a dominant third quarter. They were up like 15 points go or 20 points, I think, going into the fourth quarter. They blow that lead. Then Aaron Gordon with a buzzer beating dunk that was reviewed for about an hour and a half before they said, okay, it's good. Nuggets win. Nuggets win that game 101-99. I didn't expect the Nuggets to win many games where it's low scoring like that. That's kind of the more the Clippers territory, more where they're going to try to drag you into the deep end and beat you there. But the Nuggets were able to do it. They won it playing Clippers basketball, and now they go back to LA with a 3-2 lead. And this series has been all that we bargained for, just as good as we expected it to be.
Yeah, this series has been great. After game two, I thought the Clippers, I mean, they looked good in game one. I thought they were going to start ripping them off, maybe take a 3-1 series lead, but game four and game five, the Nuggets really woke up. Jokic has been fantastic. Like you can't doubt Jokic ever. And they dominate game five really, and in game four they were able to get it done as well. So Nuggets, they're up, but now they have to go into LA and go and face the wall. I think the Clippers get it done in game six, and I see this being a 7-game series. Two teams that are very physical, great teams, a lot of experience. In a game seven, I think I'd have to give it to the Nuggets because it's at home with the altitude. But Kawhi Leonard, we've seen him in game sevens before, and just in the playoffs, step up and be that player. But it's been a very fun series so far. I'd love to get more of these two teams playing each other. I wish both of these teams could advance. I love watching both of them play. Kawhi, Harden, all them. But Russell Westbrook has also stepped up for this Nuggets team and been a very good player. We've seen in the last game his ability to hit some shots has been huge. He's kind of a bipolar player. He can have bad moments, but when he's playing good, it's big for this Nuggets team. I wanted to say how many shots did he hit in the last game? I mean, he had 21 points on 50% shooting from the 3-point line for Russell Westbrook. That's very good. Three threes were hit. Jamal Murray hit 8 threes in last night's game. He was fantastic as well. So they have Jokic, and I expect this to go to 7, and it's going to be a fun series to watch wrap up. And it sucks that they're beating each other and up so badly, and whoever wins is going to have to advance against a team that has probably a week plus of rest at this point.
Yeah,
So we'll see what
exactly.
happens.
Yeah, it should be a good series regardless. But that will about do it for this episode of the Engage 8 podcast. If you made it this far, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. We'll be back next week to once again talk NBA playoffs. We'll be deep into the second round at that point. So look forward to that. Hit the links in our description for Spotify, TikTok, social media, and all that good stuff. And we'll see everybody in the next one.